All right, Elastic Audio and Pro Tools. This is Pro Tools' way to do time compression and expansion on audio clips. So I'm going to use this kick drum right here for an example. Over here where the name of the track is, if you go down below that, there's this little box at the bottom of this section, current Elastic Audio plugin. I don't have any activated. If you click on this, it shows you a list of the different modes of Elastic Audio. So these modes you would choose depending on what content's on the track. Polyphonic is an instrument that, like a piano or guitar, that plays chords, that has more than one note going at the same time. Rhythmic for things like drums and percussion. Monophonic for single note instruments, vocals, bass, horns. Varispeed, this is the one of these modes that will change the pitch of the audio that you're compressing or expanding, similar to speeding up or slowing down a tape machine. Xform is a rendered only version. It's based on an Xform plugin that Avid makes, which is a standalone plugin that does the same function. You can go a little deeper. There's more parameters, but it has to render a new audio clip to use in place of the original with the results of what you were doing. All right, this is kick drum. I'm going to pick rhythmic. It's going to take a second and analyze it. Once it's done analyzing it, you use Elastic Audio and Pro Tools with two track views. So, track view menu right here below the name of the track, analysis and warp. Let's click on analysis. This shows us where Pro Tools, when it analyzed the clip, decided to put warp markers. I used the rhythmic mode. It placed a marker on these obvious transient hits of the kick. Occasionally you'll get one like this that's on the bleed. Yeah, sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, depends. If I want to quantize these kicks to the grid though, let's say I don't necessarily want to quantize this one, I might want to take it away. In analysis view, if you go to the hand tool, you can add and take away analysis points or warp points. To take one away, double click on it. To add it, double click and it adds one. You can also click and drag and move these around. So I'm just going to work with this first section of the kick drum thing. It looks like that pretty much up until, this point, there are perfectly warp markers on the kick hits. So I'm going to go over here back to the track view menu and I'm going to go to warp. Now you can see that the warp markers stayed there, but they're not activated. To activate one, I click on it. And that allows me to now be able to grab it and move it. And notice how it's stretching this side after the warp marker and compressing that in order to adjust this clip. So it's adjusting at this point where I'm clicking and dragging, but it's adjusting only in between the next warp marker after and before it. So you can see it's only manipulating this one section of the audio. All this out here to the right isn't getting touched. This is a really important thing to remember. You need to set a warp marker before and after the warp marker that you are choosing to move. Otherwise, watch what happens when I move this one. There's no warp markers here. The whole clip is being shifted to the right. I just totally misaligned the rest of the kick drums this entire clip by moving this. If I didn't need to move that, I would have to activate this warp marker after it. Now I can move this one kick and not nudge all of these kick drums. If you hold shift and click with the hand tool, it actually will activate the one you're clicking on and the warp marker before and after it automatically and allow you to then move that. Pretty useful tool. So you can activate and deactivate by holding option and clicking this little arrow at the bottom that deactivates the warp marker or activates it. But you can't really remove or delete them in this view. You'd have to go back to analysis and remove the warp marker. All right, so one thing that's cool about this, let me go back to warp. I can select all these warp markers with the selection tool. I can then use the same quantization menu as MIDI, event operations, quantize, option 0. And I can quantize to a grid. I can pick my note value and hit apply, and these just all aligned perfectly with the grid to the near 16th note. You have all the same options as you would with MIDI or anything in most quantize options menus. So that's pretty cool to be able to quantize audio clips. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you, this is a bass line. So this is a monophonic instrument. It's not a rhythmic instrument. I mean, most instruments have rhythm, but as far as these modes go, it's monophonic. So I'm going to go over here and activate monophonic on the bass track. Once it's done analyzing it, I'm going to go to Analysis View. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, this note that rings out, he held it a little long and started this note late. It should line up with the end of these clips. So if I want to just change the duration of this note and the start location of this note, I need to make sure there's a warp marker on each note. There's one on this first note, one on that note, and then I need one after so I don't move the whole clip after that. I'm going to look here and say, you know what? I think this is the marker. That's the real endpoint of what I'm going to move. So I'm going to get the hand tool and delete this one. Then I go over to warp. I'm going to shift click with the hand tool. It activated all three of those markers. I can now grab and move this over. And it's not moving before or after these warp markers. And now I perfectly shortened this note, elongated this one. There you go. You can do this to tighten up the ends of songs if everybody's muted their instruments at different times and kind of different decays without having to edit or use fades or in combination with them. You can also change vocal phrasing pretty easily and pretty powerfully if somebody just phrased something a little weird. Hopefully this all makes sense, and you'll realize it's really powerful. This has saved us a lot of trouble editing-wise to be able to do this. Cool.